Welcome to Engage Your Tribe, a podcast about the art and science of audience engagement. I'm Jeremy Shear, and my guest is Jack Thurston, VP of Marketing at Butcher Joseph. Jack, it's great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, Jeremy. Appreciate it.
Now, Engage Your Tribe is brought to you by Tribal Knowledge Podcasting. We're a full-service B2B podcasting agency, and we help B2B brands use podcasting as a fun and efficient way to have authentic, non-salesy conversations with the buyers and decision makers you need to get to know to grow your business. You can learn more at tribknowledge.com. So, Jack, tell us a little bit about your background in marketing and about Butcher Joseph.
Sure. Yeah, I've been 20-year veteran in financial services marketing. Predominantly worked for 4 firms over the course of my career. Started out as a journalist in the Navy after college, got an MBA. Mainly worked in B2B. I've done some B2C, working in private wealth management, but a lot of my experience is in investment banking and commercial banking, as well as some experience on the institutional asset management side. In terms of Butcher Joseph, we are a straight M&A shop. We do sell-side engagements, we do some buy-side work, and then we also have a specialty practice where we do employee stock ownership plans where CEOs can sell their business to their employees instead of a third party. And then we have a valuation business as well, where we do valuation for companies that are looking to potentially sell.
Okay, very good. So what does it mean to be a journalist in the Navy, by the way?
Yeah, it was a fun experience. So it's a 5-year commitment and you go through almost 1 year of school. So I did 5 months of broadcast journalism where you do everything from operating B-roll cameras to being an anchor, to also doing radio. And then you do 5 months of print, which incorporates learning how to design a newspaper, learning how to go out and gather stories, as well as I was the first class at Defense Information School that learned digital editing when they moved on from traditional film into digital. So that was neat. In terms of what I did, I was actually an anchor for WDIS Channel 2. And then I was also a reporter for the Final Cut, which was the newspaper at Fort Meade, Maryland. And I did sports and I did some hard news.
That sounds like a really good experience, like a really good way to learn that business.
It is. It was really fun. I actually tried to stay in the industry when I got out of the military. I tried to get a job in broadcast journalism, but the only interview I got was in Boise, Idaho, for not much more than I was making in the military. So I figured it was maybe time to leverage some of my skills that I learned and move into a different career path. And marketing was a natural fit because I could go out and write a story. I could interview people. Right. I started out as a copywriter. I mean, I basically spent the first 3 years of my career writing brochures and product slicks for very complicated, complex financial services vehicles on the commercial banking side. So yeah, it's the reason I'm in marketing now. I was an English major undergrad and was going to be a teacher and decided I was going to join the military and be a journalist and travel instead. And so I guess it all worked out in the long run.
Indeed. Yeah, I think journalism is a tough industry to break into and to make any kind of decent living at it first. And these days, especially, I mean, over the last couple of decades, it's just like the financial fortunes have just gone to hell, really. So I think you're in a good place.
Yeah,
I'm happy
I didn't wind up in journalism.
You might not have been able to stay there for long. You know, it's just there are more people losing jobs in journalism than there are gaining jobs.
Yeah, and in broadcast, you have to be like the top of the top to make a real living, you know, otherwise you're in like some small town in Indiana doing the nightly news. So,
yeah, right. I mean, I'm actually in a small town in Indiana as it so happens. So I know what you mean.
Yeah.
And by the way, Boise, Idaho is supposed to be actually a pretty cool city.
Yeah.
But okay. In any case, so let's talk about what you came here to talk about.
Sure.
So now most B2B companies, tend not to market on Facebook. right? That's just seen as like a B2C play. But you guys do
Absolutely.
market on Facebook. So why do you do that?
Yeah, we do. It's interesting. If you think about our client base, most of our clients are boomers, getting close to retirement. Um, and if you think about the demographic of Facebook, most of the boomers who are on social media are on Facebook, right? They're looking at pictures of their grandkids. They're
Mm-hmm.
staying in contact with their family and friends across the country. The same reason that I guess Gen Xers like me use Facebook as well. So we found that one of the best ways for us to reach them through digital advertising would be Facebook. So we're doing display on we're doing social ads on LinkedIn as well, and we're doing traditional SEM, Google ads. We're doing retargeting. But we found that most of the clients that we're reaching out to through our integrated marketing campaigns, email, etc., are all on Facebook, and we're actually able to locate them through our digital agency
Mm-hmm.
and serve ads to them in that manner.
Okay. Wow. Interesting. It's crazy, isn't it? How quickly the social media world moves. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that Facebook was the cool new thing.
Yeah.
And, it was just the cutting edge. And now, exactly like you're saying, like young people are not on Facebook. I mean, my kids, I have 20-year-old kids, they're twins. I think they have Facebook pages, but they're never on it. I mean, ever.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I have a 14-year-old, almost 15-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old son, and they're on TikTok and Instagram.
Right.
And they have a Facebook account, but it's really just to troll their parents and make sure we don't post any pictures of them that they don't want floating around on social media.
Right. So, okay. So obviously Facebook works for you guys for the reasons that you just described. So what's your strategy behind how you market on Facebook? You've mentioned digital ads, but tell us a little more about that. Strategically, how do you plan out what you're going to do on Facebook?
Yeah, so it's all part of a larger campaign. So we have targeted audiences that we market to for different segments, right? So we have a list of about 4,000 or 5,000 CEOs of companies that are not employee owned. We're able to target a specific age demographic. So we're looking at like 50-year-old CEOs of privately owned companies to market to them to potentially sell into an ESOP. Another audience we have is a list of about 2,000 employee-owned companies that we market our recapitalization services to. So these are all part of different target segments that are all part of our integrated campaign strategy. So we're doing email to them. We are targeting them through digital advertising and serving them ads through retargeting. We're also building lookalike audiences based on these different folks. We target them to a couple hundred financial services and business newspapers like the Wall Street Journal that they might be visiting and do retargeting through there. So these are the same people that we're targeting through social. So our strategy is to really kind of focus on high quality, specific business owners that meet the criteria that we've set in terms of revenue size, et cetera. And those are the people that we're serving to as part of our campaign. So we're not just blindly trying to figure out, if someone's a certain age and marketing to them or targeting them with ads on Facebook. We're generally targeting based off of our existing database of people that are part of our larger campaign.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So like what have you learned about what does not work on Facebook for your purposes?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I find Facebook to be, at least for me, I'm a Gen Xer. I find it to be probably the only non-Amazon site that I wind up buying off of, right? So I'll be on Facebook and I'll get served up a T-shirt. I'm a music junkie. I play in a couple bands, and I'm like, I got to have that Jerry Garcia T-shirt. And I'm like, how do they know I know Jerry, or how do they know I like the Grateful Dead? Well, that's because I'm in a couple Grateful Dead groups and I post stuff about the Grateful Dead. So what I find interesting about Facebook is it's so powerful. They have so much data. It makes it really easy to market. And I bought plenty of stuff off ads on Facebook. I guess I regret, I kind of hate that I do that, but it's effective. It works. In terms of what I've learned, I guess, is that you have to be pretty, you could blow through your money pretty quickly, right? You can go through your ad spend. So you have to really have a strategy and a plan in place, and have a specific demographic that you want to market to, and stick to that. Otherwise, if you're just trying to throw paint at the wall and see if it sticks, you're going to blow through your budget pretty quickly.
Okay, good point. So, I mean, one thing I'm taking away from what you're saying is you guys use Facebook because that's where your audience is, and it's just like a really efficient way to reach them. So it would seem like for other B2B companies who are thinking about, like, is Facebook a thing for us? The number one question would be, well, is your audience there? If they are, then okay, look into it. If not, then probably not. Is it as simple as that? Or like, what would be your message to other, B2B marketers? Is there a case to be made generally for checking out Facebook, or is it all dependent on if that's where your audience is?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things you have to take into consideration. So, what we do, all of our digital advertising is really talking to people who are potentially thinking about selling their company, who are worried about capital gains taxes on their business. So we have a pretty tight message, and the pages, the landing pages that we drive to people to explain to them, some of the different options they could have if they want to sell their business. Most people just think of, private equity or a competitor. A lot of people don't realize you can sell to your employees. So, they're educational in manner. And then we also offer a free feasibility analysis. So that's basically like a 30-page document where we collect data on companies, their financials, and we'll come back to them and say, this is what your company's worth if you were to sell it to a competitor, if you were to sell it to a financial buyer, and if you're going to sell it to an ESOP. And then we'll show them what the outcomes could look like. We'll tell them why their business is valued, at maybe 4 times EBITDA versus 9 times. It's based on, do you have a diverse client base? Do you have sticky products? Do you have, if you have all of your 80% of your revenues concentrated in 1 or 2 clients, you're not going to get 10 times EBITDA for your business. You're going to get probably more like 4 because there's a lot of risk. So we basically help business owners kind of understand all the different factors that goes into their valuation of their company. And what an outcome could look like if they were to sell their business. So that's a lot different than trying to sell $200,000 worth of software, right? So, these are people they own their business. They never stop working. When you own a company, you're always working. You're always thinking about your company. You're always thinking about, how you're going to grow revenue, et cetera. A lot of people don't think about selling. So getting that message in front of them, we've run into people that are in their mid-50s and they've never even thought about a succession plan. They have kids that don't want the business and they have no idea what they're going to do with it, right? So our message is specifically for those business owners to kind of help them and get the wheels rolling on thinking about, like, hey, what do I want to do over the next 3 to 5 years? We're not a hard sell to where, like, you fill out a feasibility and we're going to sell your business tomorrow. We're going to help coach and guide them through understanding when is the right time in the market cycle, what are different macroeconomic trends that are going on that can impact the value of their company, et cetera. So it's not a hard sell. It's really more of an educational type of engagement with these folks, which, if I was on Facebook and say I'm a CIO, and I'm thinking about looking at marketing automation platforms, if I get served an ad for Pardot on Facebook, it's going to feel a little bit out of place, I think. So I guess to answer your question, really, it depends on what your product or service is. I think service businesses maybe do a little bit better.
Okay.
For
all right.
B2B.
Yeah, I hear you. Interesting. So, okay, a couple quick questions here at the end to kind of wrap up. What's been your main focus so far in Q1?
Lead generation and rolling out our event strategy. So we're, for the first time, rolling out a series of networking events for prospects and what we call intermediaries, attorneys, CPAs, financial advisors, any type of intermediary that's a potential referral source for us. And a financial advisor likely has clients that own a company, and they know that, and they talk to them about that, and they probably help them on their financial planning on what they're going to do post business. So, we try to network with these folks, and we give them business, they give us business, referral business. So, rolling that series out, we're doing some in St. Louis, and we're going to do one in Palm Beach, Florida as well. And then really a big focus for me is like generating quality leads for the bankers to follow up on.
Okay, excellent. What are the top 3 KPIs that your boss is most focused on?
I would say probably the first one is one that's not commonly heard, but it's called ROMI, Return on Marketing Investment. It's really evaluating how marketing expenses contribute to profitable revenue growth. And we don't really measure it down to the nuts and bolts on like email campaigns, but what we do look at is, what type of return are we getting on paid spend, such as search marketing, digital marketing, SEM, the conferences that we send our bankers to. Like, we want to make sure that they're setting up meetings, that they're meeting with the right folks, that we're doing follow-up afterwards. And those are kind of hard costs. And then also content. We do a lot of content in-house. We outsource some content. So really making sure that, we're getting the value for what we spend on those different channels and content types, including like video and stuff. So that's probably the number one thing that she and I both keep a pretty close eye on. A typical one would be, email click-through rates. So we're always, when we're doing campaigns, we're not necessarily looking at opens as much, because now with all the updates that you have on your iPhone that kind of blocks people from knowing if you've opened an email, if they're on your website. So a lot of these new privacy rules that iPhone and Google have rolled out, I don't think you have accurate open rates. So we're looking at click-through rates to see if we email 1,500 people in a campaign, how many people actually click through, a unique individual click through on that. That's a pretty big tell for us versus like looking at open rates. The other would be, I'd say, lead conversion to prospect success rate. So once I've converted someone, after we've nurtured them and I've converted them from a lead to a contact in Salesforce and sign them to a banker for follow-up, how many of those then get into the prospect bucket? So once you're a prospect, you go on our pipeline report and it shows that we're in contact with you and that there's a potential opportunity there. The next stage is getting them into feasibility, which is what I told you about, that feasibility study. Because once we get people into feasibility, we have like an 85% success rate on closing that deal.
Okay, excellent. And lastly, what do you and your team hope to accomplish throughout 2022?
I would say continue to build a quality pipeline for our bankers. I mean, at the end of the day, I do a million things, posting content, doing email campaigns, managing all of our digital post-deal marketing, conferences, etc. But at the end of the day, my success is really based on, do we have marketing leads that are converted, that eventually turn into a client and generate revenue. So for me, I'm hoping to get at least three marketing qualified leads into the prospect pipeline or into feasibility, and which then gives us a good chance of closing that deal.
Okay, excellent. Well, Jack, thanks so much for all of that. Learned a ton and really interesting. Thanks for a really engaging conversation.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. I appreciate you having me on. This was great.